So Barbara has prepared a list of questions. Sellers always have questions about their appraisals, and sometimes they even get a little confused about appraisals versus home inspections. So Barbara is going to clarify some of those things for us today.
I generally advise people who are preparing to have an appraiser come by and view their home. You don't have to go cleaning your entire home. That's not what is important to an appraiser. An appraiser is pretending your house is vacant, quite honestly. Personal property doesn't matter in this. The property that is part of the real estate, the attached pieces, the improvements, they're all the things the appraiser wants to look at, and they want to see the condition and make sure there's no damage, obvious damage. You know, not necessarily so. I'm sure your agent's very capable of pulling comparable sales that are close by. And if they want a little advice, they can always call me. I might help them delve into it a little bit more. It's been done a lot. We're accustomed to that. I'll say, okay, that's crazy. That's not a good sale.
Right. These
These are more appropriate. This is more what appraiser's going to look for in terms of what's most similar to this property. You betcha. That certainly does. It really does.
Yeah.
And you know what appraiser's going to look at, if I find a house that's super renovated like that, I'm going to look for other houses that are most comparable to that level of renovation.
Right, let's say we have a home built in 1985 and one has been totally upgraded and another is well maintained, but maybe just as built still, right? But from an appraiser side, the upgraded property is going to add value.
You're going to see that this house is maintained. It's in overall really good shape. And that's really important too. Right. But when you have the added element of somebody putting an extra $100,000 or so in to all those super new finishes, it's gonna, of course, it's gonna be more marketable. People are gonna be willing to pay more for that.
Right.
And I have to capture that in an appraisal by using comparable sales that have the same level of renovation. That's what we aim for. Additional bedrooms up above. Now there's two levels. There's above grade levels where your top to your kitchen and your bedroom levels are, and then there's the basement. Any portion of that basement that is below grade, even if it's a sliver of it, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae require the appraiser to call it basement area, and it's not included in your overall GL or gross living area. The separate question was, do additional bedrooms add value? Maybe. It depends.
Buyers would probably like it. It might make it more appealing.
But the appraiser has to be able to suss that out and develop and support this additional value by providing sales that support that.
Yeah, and we should probably go back and clarify. An appraiser is giving a professional opinion of estimated value.
It's the appraiser's opinion of estimated opinion market value, and it is by definition an estimate.
Yeah.
But it's backed up by data, and it is as of the date of that appraisal. So the effective date of that appraisal is the date that appraiser comes out, which brings up another thing. Whatever is done, finished, and in place as of the date of the appraisal, the date I show up, is all I can appraise. If you're going to add a pool or you're going to change the windows next week, I can't include it.
You've said people are at times confused between the difference between a home appraiser and a home inspector.
Yeah. Well, appraiser's pretty limited. I mean, I'm just like you. Any layperson wandering through a house, I don't have the knowledge base that a home inspector has.
Yeah.
They know how to like dig into your crawl space and go into the HVAC and understand just looking at it what's not rigged up right.
And they're looking for it with a very methodical approach, looking for flaws, potential problems, but they're not going to give you an estimate, a professional estimate
We do value. They do the mechanics.
Yeah.
They're going in and making sure that that water heater is strapped properly, or that it's not, there's some corroded element that's going to create a fire or something. I don't have the knowledge to do that.
And so even if you're not thinking about selling, it might benefit you to have a home inspector come around every decade or so give you a report. It's you know, it's not that much money considering how water intrusion or certain things like that can cause thousands of dollars in damage.
Yeah, they may catch something that could save a life too. I mean, that's really scary to think about, but I sure appreciate their input. That's going to have impact on your property value, on the estimate of value. And what the appraiser would do is just, you know, find a property that's similarly situated or oriented, and use that to bracket that condition. Condition ratings. Houses are in different condition, and our ratings that we use are either new condition.
Oh, okay.
We call that a C1.
Okay.
And on the form that we use for you know, every appraisal we do for a mortgage lending. And C2 would be one that maybe has been fully renovated but is not new. And it's fully renovated to the extent that it's like, looks like nobody ever lived there.
Right.
C3 is like everybody's house. You know, most of it's in good shape.
Right.
Nothing's worn out. It's still in good shape, but it's not new.
I generally tell people, and if you're even a couple of years out from selling, it is a really good time to start going through your records, start going through your memory, and say, when did I do the roof? When did I do the windows? When did I do the heating and cooling systems? When did I, the water heater? Those are things that get asked a lot.
Yeah. It's good to keep a file of all the repairs you've done, and then you can make a little list by year.
And if you can't remember exactly, give a good, you know, a reasonable estimate of what you spent.
Right.
You know, you may not be able to pull out the receipt. Buyers will appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the first questions that they ask when they come in the door, if I'm hosting an open house, how is the roof? How is the windows? You know, and if I have that sheet, it's useful not only for potential buyers, it's really useful for the appraisers.
I use it.
Yeah, because then they have more information to back
just
it
more
up.
information.
Right.
It helps me understand where, you know, I can observe what I can observe, but I can look at a roof and think it looks new and be totally, it's definitely had to be, exactly.
Yeah.
It's been surprised people have fallen through that brand new roof that looks so new.
Yeah, it's true.
An accessory dwelling unit can be inside, it can be in the basement area.
Like a mother-in-law suite.
Yes, exactly.
Suite.
Where there's a bedroom, a bathroom, a kitchenette, and a living area.
Right.
That's what they really try to do.
Sort of like an apartment.
Right. A little apartment, but you can access it from the main house. It's not like that's not an ADU. And you can also have one over the garage or a separate house. I mean, generally that would be a guest house.
It could be a little tiny house in the back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Had that too. They are of great value, and you would want to absolutely find comparable sales. This is the hard part. Finding a comp sale that has the same.
I have seen some really nice accessory dwelling units, and I'm like, wow.
Yes,
you know, this looks like it was custom built for somebody, and finding
the quality
comps.
of the finishes, the quality of the finishes and all that can be just as nice. I mean, I've seen a couple $1 million homes couple of $1 million homes in this case that had beautiful accessory dwelling units that were every bit as well done as the main home.
Wow.
That is something that depends on the appraisal. There's nothing written in stone in appraising because every situation is different. Every house is different.
Yeah.
Exactly, and it changes. It changes all the time.
Really?
So you can go as reasonably far to be in a relevant market area. And if you go too far where you're kind of out of the same location where you might be changing the value of the location, you make a locational adjustment to, account for that.
The ideal is probably to remain in the same community or neighborhood.
Right.
And to be as close in time.
Generally speaking, the best indicators of value are going to be right there in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this is 90% of the time, really. That's not a common thing where you have to go.
Some communities are tiny, right? Just 7 or 8
and then you do have to go out, but that's true. And then you go to similar communities that are similarly valued and assessed. And we're lucky enough here to have a pretty homogeneous market area.
Here being a Washington, D.C. metro area specifically, most of what I do is Northern Virginia. I am only licensed in Virginia, but I do have friends and coworkers who are licensed in D.C. and Maryland.
Well, I'm licensed in DC, and I can tell you can go street by street and be an entirely different market area.
Yeah, oh my. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Keep in mind that every appraisal is a completely unique product. There's nothing written in stone in appraising. You don't do standard anything in appraising.
That's
everything.
true.
There's no rules to it. There are standards we go by in what's called the Uniform Standards of Appraisal Practice that we follow as our little Bible that we
So the
go by.
guidelines,
We have
right.
guidelines, and they're very strict, and we're summarily in trouble if we don't follow them.
Now, that being said, if I was a licensed appraiser and I did an appraisal on a property and you did an appraisal on a property, they could come back with different numbers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's by definition, as we said earlier, it's an estimate of the current opinion of value.
Yeah.
And if it comes in at a different number and you don't like the number, you can always go back to your lender and say, you know what? I don't think this one's right. You can ask for there is a process to ask for it to be reviewed and to have the appraiser look at additional sales. I didn't call them comps for a reason, because they are sales dated to be reviewed, and they may be acceptable, they may not be. I've got some gems out of that were actually very helpful and made deals actually work on a lot of occasions.
And I try and give appraisers, when I represent a seller, I try and give them what I think are good comps, and I always try and meet the appraiser at the house because I learn something every single time. They tell me something.
I do too.
Yeah.
When I meet the agents, I get good stuff too.
Yeah.
And
So it's worthwhile.
I really appreciate seeing where the agent is coming from on why they decided to list a property at the pricing they did. It helps me understand what they're thinking, and helps me to understand.
And as we're speaking right now, inventory, resale inventory, and frankly new construction as well, there's just not enough of it. But sometimes that can switch in the next year, and maybe it'll become a more balanced market. But right now, there's just not enough inventory to satisfy buyers, and so researching comparable properties to get pricing for both realtors and appraisers has become a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, without so much data, we're having to work really hard, to make sure we're getting the right number. I mean, I take it very seriously to make sure I'm not making a mistake, hopefully, and not pulling a wrong sale, and reviewing enough data and taking enough time to do that.
Hey, I'm Mary Williams, licensed realtor with Sampson Properties. I have my guest Barbara. Say your last name, Barbara.
Barbara DePietro, and I'm a
DePietro.
certified residential appraiser.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara, for your
You're
time
welcome.
today.
Thanks for having me. It
Thanks
was fun.
everybody for joining us on film today.